spanning the banking sector, non-bank financial services sector, financial consulting services, project management, and public sector. To represent Dr. Babatunde Obrima here this afternoon, I am very happy to introduce us to Mr. Seun Folorunsho, the General Manager, FinTech. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please. Today we'll be taking a look at how regulations affect the fintech industry and seeing that my own expertise lies in speaking plenty English. I would like to hand over the mic to those who know how and what to do with the fintech industry. Over to you, sir.
All right, good afternoon. All right, so the introductions have been done. My job here is to be the moderator, and the experts, my co-panelists, will respond. So let me start with the, so basically what we're going to do today is basically to ask questions, and then I will allow the team here and each of them to respond to the question as briefly as possible. So as the lady said, we are looking at fintech, the impact of regulations on fintech operations and innovations. I'm sure we all know what fintech is. We know fintech has been affecting our lives in marvelous ways, especially in current times. We have Money Point here. A lot of these guys are doing a lot of wonderful things, you know, and quite a number of them out there as well. Okay? Now, there's a whole lot of potential in this industry, which includes things like technology-enabled innovation in financial services, which has increased greatly over the past decade. Now, the question is that, is regulatory framework meeting up with the innovations happening in that industry, especially concerning risk and, you know, how those risks are addressed? Fintech is being used across financial services to generate efficiencies and lower costs to firms, improve compliance, and help regulatory authorities achieve their objectives. Importantly, fintech is having an impact on markets, not just locally, but all over the world. So my first question is this: what is the state of regulations in fintech? Is regulations in Nigeria moving at par with innovations? Okay, so I'll give each of you some few minutes, 2 minutes, to respond to the question. Okay, madam, starting with you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope my mic is working. Okay.
I'm not sure it's on.
I particularly feel delighted because a gathering like this gives us the opportunity to discuss issues and then to profile solutions and come up with recommendations on how we move the ecosystem forward. And interestingly, we're talking about fintech. Fintech has been so explosive in the recent times in Nigeria. In fact, it's looking like we are leading the world in terms of innovations that are coming through these fintech organizations. And we are pretty doing so well. But the question is, in as much as we are doing well, is the regulations guiding our activities in this ecosystem also doing well? Are they at par with the heavy movement, the pace at which the fintech organizations are going? And to answer that, I would say they are doing well. But then there is a need for them to run at the same pace at which the fintech organizations are going. There are a lot of innovations in the financial sector. There are a lot of startups also coming up. But if these startups are coming up, what is the entry level requirement for them? How prepared is the environment for them? In terms of infrastructure, in terms of the security of the infrastructure, the regulation itself, is it doing well? You know? So we need to be able to find a balance. And if we do not do well in terms of regulations, you may think that we are doing well in the organizations or with the organizations that are springing up, but then it will be short-lived. Because if you do not take care of the infrastructural requirements, the security of this infrastructure, once they are hit with the things that are going around, especially cybersecurity, then we crumble. Then we lose the money that we have invested in these, startups. So there is a need for us to chart a way forward so that the innovations are going side by side with the regulations. And when we also talk about these regulations, we should be mindful of the fact that regulation also can hinder the growth of these organizations. We are talking about capital requirement. Is it commensurate with the size and the capacity of these startups? The regulations we have, are they targeted at the fintech organizations, or we are improvising with the existing regulations guiding the traditional institutions? If we do not come up with specific regulations targeting at the startups and these fintech organizations, we may be killing them. We may not be giving them the opportunity to grow. So those are the issues that regulators should think through, and then we come up with relevant guidelines to be able to grow these organizations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, madam. I mean, that's a very insightful one that you have told us. So please, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here. I'll pick up from where Ochanya stopped. The need to balance innovation with regulation is a key thing. And when you look across the globe, it's a no-brainer that technology, innovation is always is a global slogan, always ahead of regulation, right? So all over the globe, not only Nigeria, but what we then need to do, and we've seen, if I'm to put it in a simple sentence, I would say the state of regulation in Nigeria is dynamic, and it's also evolving, and that's just a common trend from across the globe, owing to the fact that, innovation is always at the pace of light. As we are trying to catch up with one innovation, another one has hit you, right? So we see that pace, but of course, the dimension of the regulator is always that we need to balance innovation with regulation, as Ochanya has said. We also need to, as we are innovating, we need to also have consumer protection in sight. We have to always think about consumer, right? And of course, the regulators are always also, CBN will also always look at financial stability as a key thing. So we see that regulation is evolving, and we are then seeing a lot of movement as well. We've seen fantastic movement from the CBN, from SEC, from NIDA, from NCC, and we see all of them coming together to say, yeah, we want innovation, yeah, we want fintech to continue to thrive, but we must build a guardrail around what we are doing in the overall interest of the economy, because the value fintechs bring to the table is so enormous. But for us to sustain that value, we must always balance innovation with regulation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Oge, please. All right, thank you so much. All right, I think one area, I mean, we've all agreed there's been a whole lot of innovations. We have the CBN, we have regulatory authorities that are doing a great job from what we have said. There's room for improvement. But one area of concern is, or interest, is the fact that this fintech innovations, is it impacting the ordinary man on the street positively? I know the area of payment, there's a whole lot of inclusiveness. But in the area of credit, and that's one area that Nigeria is really lacking, as fintech improve the credit system such that we can say that, okay, credit system was 10% or 15% at some point, it has grown to 25%. And what kind of credit are we talking about? Is it the kind of credit that enriches, or is it the kind of credit that impoverishes citizens? Okay, so I would like us to have that discussion, especially also considering the fact that, look, we're looking at the future. You know, what is it before? What is it now? What is it likely to be like in the future? All right, so, Madam, again, you're going to start.
Thank you for that awesome question. Fintech has contributed a lot to the ecosystem and to our national growth, because when you compare what they do now and to our experience with the traditional financial institutions, you will see that there is so much ease with which we do transactions now. You will see that there is so much speed at which we do our transactions. You will see that there is convenience, you know, the way we handle transactions. You remember those days, if you have to do a transaction, you go to the bank. You join the queue. Yeah. They give you tally number. And you stay there until it gets to your turn. But now, even as I sit, I can do transactions around the world. Yeah. Can do transfer to anywhere, you know. So that ease, that speed, that convenience, fintech has enabled them. And I will also want to solicit that there should be a high level of collaboration within the ecosystem. Because this fintech, because they are mostly startups, they need to be encouraged, they need to be supported by the traditional institutions. If, for instance, I'm already made and I have my running infrastructure, what stops me from just making the fintechs to come to me and just plug and play? You just need an API for them to be able to do that. And then what stops us from maybe taxation? I don't know if they are taxed now, because I know we are all heavily taxed now. What stops us from exempting them from such obligations for a period of time until they are able to stand on their feet? This will reduce the cost. Also, what stops us from looking at bringing down the cost of licenses for them, just to encourage them and see how they grow, then we take it up from them. So there are so many things we can do actually to encourage them, because they have brought a lot of changes, good changes into the environment. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, apart from, in addition to all that Madam has said, I think fintech also comes with affordability, right? Financial transactions, services are now much more affordable. When we are talking of benefits of fintechs, it goes beyond being able to access credit, right? He mentions financial inclusion. Even the central bank allude to the fact that fintech is a key driver of financial inclusion numbers. Yeah. That's part of it. Fintech is also, they're also creating employment opportunities. Okay. They're also driving FDIs. I think, was it 2021 that we have 1.3 billion FDI that came into the sector from across the globe, right? And this year, we already have about $400 million, where we had Move. Move alone had about $100 million in Series funding. So we look at that, and that is also helping us solving FX issues you know, and also creating a lot of opportunities. So we see that fintech has come to make life easier, generally, and things can only get better. All we just need to do, like she has said, they need to collaborate more. They need to leverage the incumbents so as to, you know, leverage the diverse resources they have, and then they can also leverage the nimbleness and flexibility that fintech brings. So we see the need to collaborate more. They need to also work more closely with regulators so that they understand the dynamics of the ecosystem better and are able to come forward with flexible, easy, because most regulations, most licenses regime are not affordable to very young fintech. Yeah. So you are seeing some worth billions of naira, some worth hundreds of millions of naira. Where are they going to get those kind of money? So the need for flexible, adaptable regulation is there. The need for collaboration. And of course, we need to also all continue to co-learn. A lot of things are still evolving, you know. And of course, government needs to play their role in also supporting fiscally in terms of their own policy and all that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Oge, I want you to address the issue of credit. Where are we? And what's the future looking like in terms of credit availability to citizens? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm happy to attend to it. Okay. Yeah, so I know you also recognized very recently that CBN engaged a number of players within our sector. And these are the things we are looking at in terms of tightening up KYC, enhancing corporate governance, and risk management framework. So what are we doing here? One, it's a function of training. So we are training our members to say, you can't be lending to someone who does not have adequate ID card, right? So training is just very key. You see, that goes back to knowledge. Fintech Learning Series, which is what we are doing. So training is there. We're also working as an association to help entities come up with a unified verification platform. Because at times, like Manu had said, most of these things are not affordable. A young innovator cannot afford to hire a chief compliance officer. So how do we come together and create a platform where we can give them that right environment, which is what Regulatory Sandbox is also doing. So we are doing training. We are establishing a joint platform where young people, like these people can afford all of the money. Unified Payment can afford all of the money to establish kind of process. But young people, young fintech, they don't have the money to do all of that. So that goes back to your comment on the need for even established organizations to also support in helping the young startup to scale. So training is there, joint initiative across the ecosystem is also there, and we all allude to the fact that the benefits of fintech actually outweigh the challenges or the disadvantages, and that is why we have to really create a joint, ecosystem approach to enabling them.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
So, good thing that, our regulators are also, ahead in their thinking towards issues like this. We know that the CBN has introduced CRMS, Credit Risk Management System, which is supposed to be a central repository, of information for all players within the ecosystem to report, information about, the customers within their systems. We have iCard, Industry Customer Account Database, where every institution is supposed to report all of their accounts. Now, there's supposed to be a harmonization between both of these systems, and these systems are available to, players within the space. Now, something very important for organizations with credit is the organizations also have to ask themselves, what is our risk appetite? But even with asking and answering that question for themselves, they have to do it in relation to the customers that they are onboarding. Like I mentioned before, your product is likely the way somebody would lose their life savings. Or it is the way someone's life will be easier, better, because we've seen things like identity theft increase. So someone can go to an app, sign up on your behalf, set up everything on your behalf, and take a loan on your behalf. And then Mr. Chanyana will not be receiving messages that my brother has collected a loan he knows nothing about. You know, so there are systems that are present today. We have our credit bureaus that, and I think a lot of them are doing very well in reducing the costs of accessing the data that they have. You know, so I know that if more organizations take advantage of what is already available, they would to a large extent reduce, you know, the amount of bad actors that we have today within the space. There's stuff available that people can use. I know that people also build like internal algorithms and, you know, some logic to determine if someone is fit enough. But, you know, something that is important is to just use the resources that are available, you know, to make better informed decisions instead of just, you know, wanting to. So there's this thing we call vanity metrics. So I want to say that, oh, I've given out 1 million loans, you know, to say, oh, I'm doing very well. But like, of your 1 million loans, what is your NPR? What's your performing loans number? Like, how are you doing in terms of that? You know, that's a different thing. You know, oh, I have 10 million downloads of my app, but in terms of credit, you know, what are the actual numbers that are important to track, you know, the efficiency and the performance of your, you know, of your business. So I think that there are systems that are available that people can take advantage of, and fintechs to, like, you know, we can calm down. You know, they say what an adult sees while sitting down, even if you climb an iroko tree, you will not see it. And like she mentioned, it's, I guess, some of the lessons that some people have had to learn the hard way. You know, traditional banks are the way they are, not because they do not want to innovate. You know, they met the system in a certain way. I mean, they've grown, you know, in a great way, but they've also seen some very bad actors. Some very, very, very bad actors. You collect money, you have crossed them a border. You're in Liberia, you're in Algeria, you're in Spain, and you're out. You know, so, but there are resources that are available today. I know that fintechs seem to have a lot of risk appetite, maybe because they have investors' money, which is terrible if you treat your business that way. Because I have investors' money, I know that, oh, I have money that can, if some people don't pay back, I can use. You know, that's terrible, and you will not last in this space. Take advantage of what's available to make the best decisions, because there are a lot of bad actors amongst the good ones as well.
All right. Thank you very much. I think finally, so I just want to find out, what's the future like? You know, I mean, in terms of all the things we have talked about, we're quite optimistic with regulatory authorities. We're also optimistic about the growth of innovation in Nigeria. We know that there are traditional institutions also sometimes could be threatened. You know, when you say that some other well-established institutions, they could also be threatened, you know, because financial industry could be, you know, I mean, you could be there today and tomorrow you see that the big guy who was a big boy yesterday and is no more. And fintech could also be a threat to some of these traditional organizations now or in the future. So what's the future like for fintech in Nigeria? What's the picture of the future? What are those threats that they are likely to see in the future? And really, what is government, whether government or the regulatory authorities, should be doing to support them so that they can at least achieve those objectives in the future? Okay, so what's the picture of the future for them?
Okay, I can say that the future is very bright because we're making a lot of headway with the fintech ecosystem.
Sorry, madam, are you seeing the numbers, the financial reports and all that? Is that part of what?
We are.
Okay.
And there's a lot of investment. There is so much, I think about last year, about $2 billion was committed to fintech growth in Nigeria. Because we have individuals buying into fintechs and all that. So they actually have a lot of money. Okay. Even though there are other startups that are smaller. Okay. So there is room for improvement. So the future will be good. If only we can be committed to creating the enabling environment, providing the structure that will manage risk in that environment, And then there is a need for us to have streamlined database. All that we are doing will amount to losses if we do not have a good database for identity management. We're talking about lending just now. You don't lend to who you do not know. Yeah. And so, you know, right now we have the NIN database. Yeah. We have BVN. Yeah. The telcos have their own database. Yeah. What stops us from creating a national database so that we all draw from the same source? Yeah. Yeah. Because if we do not do that, you will still be struggling with the issue of identity. And if you do not know the people you are doing business with, you are at the risk of losing, you know, your finances at the end of the day. Because some people come with false identity. I am Ochanya, but I can come as a different person, especially with this age of AI. The problem we're having is obfuscation of truth. You don't know what is the truth any longer. You will see somebody who is like me and is talking, the mouth is moving, but I'm not the one saying these things that you are hearing. It's a possibility. Yeah. So we just need to look in that way and then be able to look ahead and prepare for the future that we are looking at. AI has come to stay. Most of our solutions are built on AI. Yeah. But is our regulators looking at that side? The ethical issues that come with the usage of AI, are we ready to regulate such activities? And so the future is here with us, and we must be ready to take it, you know, at once, but we must be ready. And we must work in synergy as a system so that we are able to guide all that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. For us, we believe collaboration is very key. We must continue to collaborate. Fintechs, innovation thrive where there are challenges, right? In our own case, it's in solving problem. In the advanced country, it is in scaling what they